Hi, I'm Natalie Nidham, your host, and we are back. Today's guest literally stepped out of the OR to talk about longevity with us. Dr. Vonda Wright, orthopedic surgeon and elite sports doc, argues that saving mobility is ultimately what's going to save you from a ton of chronic misery. We map out what a week would look like that works in real life, protein targets you'll actually hit, a 7-day no added sugar reset to calm cranky joints, and strength work plus short spicy sprints to recompose a midlife body. If you want to feel strong, clear-headed, and genuinely excited about your next decades, this one's for you. Now, this episode is brought to you by Mitolux, Sunlamp, Beam Minerals, my fave, and Nootropept, brand new from Level Up Health, all with special offers just for you. Check out the show notes below for details and enjoy the show. Welcome to the show, Dr. Vonda Wright. It is an absolute honor to have you here today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So you guys, I just want you to know that Dr. Wright just stepped out of the OR.
Yeah, sorry I'm in my scrubs, guys. This is the life I lead.
A, do not apologize. B, it led me to my first question, which wasn't the first question on my script, but it leads to a particular question. Besides, your scrubs look fabulous. It's grade blue. There's no blood on them. Like, it's all good. All good. You're highly presentable. So the question was, and is, why do you do this? Like, someone who can wield a scalpel and do the things that you're able to do, which we're going to talk a little bit about your area of expertise. But why would you take the time to do podcasts and all the other stuff that you do? You are a busy woman.
You know what? I am a busy woman, but I've accepted long ago that this is just the capacity that I have, and I am going to exercise that to its full capacity. But the reality is, I have been doing public education, book writing, and podcasting and keynote speaking since I was a nurse. I was a nurse first.
You were.
And I was a cancer nurse, and I did the same thing. I spoke publicly. I taught at the university. And because here's the deal, and I'll tell you how I do it in orthopedics. I believe my patients are smart. And the smarter they are, the more data they have, the more numbers they have, they're going to be able to make an informed decision, because gone are the days, this exited right as I was entering into nursing school in the 80s, when doctors were the last word. The more educated my patients are, the better for them and me. So it's been a lifelong habit of mine. So when I got out of my fellowship from orthopedics, I have a fellowship in sports medicine and shoulder, thus the operating. The mantra that has always been the North Star of my career is, by saving mobility, I am going to save you from the ravages of chronic disease. Because even though these hands, I've been given hands that coordinate with my brain. I can see in my brain and my hands can make it happen. It's that kind of relationship here. But putting metal in bones would never have been enough for me. It's not until I know that by putting metal in your bones or reconstructing your knee, that you're going to run and walk and have a job and take care of your family. And by not sentencing you to 20 years of sitting in a chair, I'm actually going to save you from chronic disease. And that's enough for me to get out of bed and make the donuts, if you will, every day, right? So so that is the why of my whole career. But I think your question was also, Vaughn, what WTF? What are we doing in longevity and changing the narrative and women's health? And it's a legitimate question, because I practice at the juxtaposition of 3 Venn bubbles. If you're thinking about Venn diagram bubbles, so we have what orthopedic surgery. I am a elite sports doctor. Performance. I have always been trying in men and women, from the backyard to the ballroom to the boardroom, trying to squeeze performance out of people. But in 2012, I added very conscientiously the 3rd bubble of this Venn diagram to the whole health of women. And here's why. It was the first time I read the data that women control 80% of all the healthcare decisions in this country for themselves and everyone we touch. And the fact that we are the 51% of the population and we control 80% of all the healthcare decisions and we control up to 90% of all the consumer decisions in this country, that we control the money.
Yeah.
But the thing is, on average, I found women did not realize it. And, without the education that you and I are trying to give publicly, I find women are underpowered. Therefore, they are not able to make the decisions that will change their lives and the lives of everybody we touch, because everything I do is with the understanding that if I change the health of one woman, I've changed the health of her whole family.
Yep. Yeah. Amen. Yeah. That's so true, right? I come from the world of advertising, and we learned a long time ago that the people that you need to influence, the purchase decision maker
is the woman.
Yeah. Is the woman. And it extends to everything. And they get to decide, right? They get to decide what am I buying at the grocery store and bringing into the house? Like when I used to coach people in nutrition, I would say, if I was dealing with a woman, I'd be like, just don't buy it. Well, they'll miss it. That's okay. Don't buy it.
I love that, because I say that, I'm like, wait a minute. It sounds like somebody else is controlling it, but who buys right? And they're like, yeah, that's right. I love that you said that.
Can't eat it if it's not there.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So now, so your focus on human performance, women, and then you moved into this women's health focus, which makes so much sense.
I still do it all, my friend, but I have really turned an eye to women's health. So for the men out there, I'm still an elite sports doctor. I still do performance. I have a company called Precision Longevity, which is we're squeezing performance out of people. So I do that, but you're right. The focus is a big focus is on women.
So what led you to focus on, and honing in even a little more, like focusing on this intersection of aging and strength for women? Because that's, it started with, okay, women are the decision makers. I need to talk to them.
Right.
But you're really leaning into this aging and strength, like this, that organ, the muscle thing.
Muscle, and this year my goal is bone. So listen, I love that you asked this question. It comes from two places. When I was right after I got out of my fellowship, and I was an academic surgeon, meaning academic surgeons means you do surgery, you teach residents and fellows, and you do research. So in my research arm, we created an entity called PRIMA, the Performance and Research Initiative for Masters Athletes. And we began studying athletes over 40. And here's why. Because when big studies like the NIH, at the time, there was a big study called the Health ABC, funded by the NIH. It was a cohort study looking at a group of 70-year-old men and women, and it just followed them for like 10 years to see what happens to us when we age. Well, it found all this terrible stuff, particularly musculoskeletal decline. And I said, wait a minute. I know a lot of people that do not decline like that. What is the difference? And it didn't take me 2 seconds to know that our population in the United States, 70% of people do no form of active mobility any day of the week. And we're treating our bodies like garbage cans or garbage disposals with the food we eat.
Hey guys, I've created a free gift to thank you all for being here and for being a listener of this podcast. I've put together a list of my top 5 peptides. So all you have to do to get your copy of that is to go to natnidham.com/top 5. And that's it. Let's get back to the show.
So if big national studies like the Health ABC are population studies, and 70% of our population is not moving and not eating well, what is the true capacity of someone who is moving chronically and cares about what they put inside. Well, I just happen to be associated with the National Senior Games, which is a group of Olympic Games for you have to be 50 to participate in these games. And at a national level, you have to have won your state games. So these are not just roly-polies. These are athletes who are not pro athletes, because sometimes they're very sick people.
Yes.
These are athletes who have invested in their health chronically. And so I started studying them, because in doing so, I took the variable of immobility out. And here's what we found. I'm just going to summarize it. We did almost 10 studies. We found, number one, I asked the question, okay, can sports performance be used as a marker of aging? When do we really slow down? Is it like Hallmark says at 50 when we start sending each other rest in peace cards? Well, no. The data show, I know, listen, the data show not until our mid 70s do we become dramatically less mobile. And that can be because we just don't want to train as hard, because we've accumulated injuries, because we're getting sicker. But that bar in mid 70s is 25 years later than general population thinks. We then proved with 2 studies that with impact exercise, we can retain bone density at the same level of importance as things we don't control, like being female or being frail or little, right? The third study we did, which your readers, your listeners may have seen this picture because it has a life of its own. I wish I would have done something to make money off of it, but it is the picture. We took slices, MRI, I'm touching my own thighs now, MRI slices of our athletes' quadricep, thighs. Yeah. It looks like a ham. Right? You've got the quadriceps on top. You've got the bone in the middle, the femur. You've got the hamstrings behind. In the athletes, in the 40-year-old athlete, and if you're imagining this picture, on one side of the frame is a 40-year-old triathlete, very little peripheral fat, no marbling. This is a flank steak. This is lean.
I love it. Yeah.
In the middle of the picture is somebody who sat around for 35 years. A sedentary desk person, maybe. Their muscle has lost all its architecture. It looks like a rump roast you would never feed your family. You'd put it back in the butcher. You'd say, take that fat off. 3 inches of rind of fat. But look at what happens when the 40-year-old or people like that person continue with chronic mobility. The last picture in this series is a 75-year-old triathlete, and the slice looks nearly identical to the 40-year-old. It's not identical, but well-retained muscle, very little fat infiltration or marbling, very little peripheral fat, and importantly, that person remains strong. Not as strong as 40, but very capable. And so this study that we did and these 3 pictures has inspired we published that in 2011, a generation of health people, of trainers. Every time I post again on social media, all the gym bros are posting it, proving what they already know is that chronic mobility, intentional lifting or intentional exercise means something, right, to our muscle. Yeah. And then finally, a study that took us 5 years, and this is why research is so long and so expensive to do, is we wanted to ask the question, well, does chronic mobility prevent brain decline? It was one of the first studies in this. It's an old study we did, and it wasn't that this subject is well published now, but it wasn't at the time. And we used the same tool that we used to study concussion, which measures executive function. I'm touching my brain because it's in the front of our brain. Executive function. We found that chronic exercise in these master's age athletes helped us retain 3 of the 5 executive functions that make us human. And so all from a little mobility. It's not that hard. These were not pro athletes. These were mere mortal athletes like you and me. Isn't it amazing?
It is amazing. And I mean, that's a soundbite that's just gaining amplitude now. I would say that exercise prevents brain decline. Like it's, because the first hurdle was maintaining and building and maintaining muscle. Then it's like, oh, guess what? You're worried about your bones. Well, if you build muscle, your bones are going to benefit. But now it's like the double B, right? The muscles and the bones, but the muscles and the brain, because metabolically you become healthier and then your blood flow is better to your brain. I mean, all the many downstream reasons why. I mean, there's so many reasons why, but it's so interesting. Now, has anybody, or have you done any work on and I love that you use the word chronic, because every time you say chronic mobility, I think it's a bad thing, but I have to remind myself, no, she's talking about people who regularly exercise and move. So I have to so you guys, this is where chronic is good. Yeah. Chronic is good in this conversation.
The time, chronic, it's a habit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it's a clinical thing. So has anybody done any work in the area of looking at that 70-year-old who has lost so much in the bone and all the things? Can they get it? Can they bring it back?
Yeah. So I have not done those studies, but that is a question I am asked frequently, and I'm sure the studies have been done. But anecdotally, I have examples of many, many people publicly known who have done just that. And I'll tell you one that is not as well known as, I think Train with Joan McDonald is like everybody's favorite, right? But there's a friend of mine named Susan Geedy, and she may become famous because I talk about her all the time. And on Instagram, she's Kiki Mouse Gets Fit. Kiki Mouse, because that's what her grandchildren call her. During COVID, she was 63. And she's smaller than me, and I'm 5'4", right? But life had taken over for whatever reason. And she was up to 181 pounds of roly-poly. I mean, she's just out there with it. Pictures are all over her site. And she's like, enough is enough. I have got more to live and more to give than this. Plus, she made a deal with God, which you can never renege on. So she's like, I am going to change this. So she did the very simple lifestyle things that I coach about, that you coach about all the time. She lifted heavy weights. She paid attention to her nutrition. She walked. It wasn't like brain surgery. It was finally taking care of herself. Susan Geedy, in the course of a year, went from 181 to 140. She built all this muscle. She began competing in powerlifting and bikini competitions. Now, listen, you don't have to do that. I mean, I'm not like,
it's a bit much,
but she's so brave. She's so brave. She did it. She is ripped. And so not only can we lose the adipose tissue, which is not just innocuous, hanging off in inconvenient zip codes, it is a noxious metabolic organ secreting hormones and cytokines. So she built so much muscle, which, I think we don't talk about the fact as much, or I talk about it all the time, but that muscle and bone and fat, 3 musculoskeletal tissues, which are dear to me as I'm a musculoskeletal doctor, are endocrine organs. They all secrete hormones, and they're not on separate islands. Everybody's a cousin, and they speak a language everybody understands. So the leptin from fat affects muscle and bone, and the osteocalcin from bone affects everything, frankly. And it's just this amazing network of communication. And that's why we can't just say things like, oh, if I do one thing, it's going to mean the world. We are a system. So.
Yeah. No, I'm that's amazing. And she's an extreme case, because people will say, well, maybe it's her genetics. Maybe it's this. Maybe it's because she has higher testosterone. And I think that what people forget is sometimes it's just hard work.
Oh my goodness.
Sometimes it's throwing yourself into something and committing it to it. And like you said, you don't have to do the bikini competitions. Maybe your goal isn't to build muscle to that degree. But if a woman in her 60s who, by any measure, she's had that crazy aging spike at 60 that they're talking about now. Her hormones, I mean, maybe she's on bioidenticals, maybe she's not.
She was
not even on bioidenticals.
She was never offered, ever. She's of that generation, was never offered. Yep.
That's incredible. That's incredible, right? And so it just goes to show, and there's a few people on Instagram like that, like women who just made a decision, they flipped a switch. And I'm not to say this to judge anybody who's listening. You may have circumstances in your life, maybe you work really hard, maybe you have aging parents and small children, like who knows, right? But the point is that the paradigm of you use it or you lose it, that is like a rule of nature.
It is. And my research and the research of many other people have shown it. But if you don't mind, I love what you just said, because we all have something, right? We all have all those other life factors. And I can approach that from a couple levels, because I'm as guilty as anybody else getting caught up in life. But we can either decide to take care of ourselves so that we can take care of the other people. Yeah. We can decide to take care of ourselves because we're worth it, you know, but I also want people to give themselves a little friggin' grace, because my own story, I mean, I don't mind using myself as an example. I am what you describe. I live in a household by choice where I take care of my 86-year-old parents. Frankly, it's easier to have them here than somewhere else, right? I have 6 children in a blended family and 3 grandchildren. I have 2 old dogs who can barely get out of the house these days. And I have a rising senior in high school. And you mentioned I am married to an old professional athlete who, by the way, is doing very well. But when you say everybody's got something going on, listen, I would like to lift heavy every day because I feel like such a badass afterwards. Why wouldn't I want to feel like that? But the reality is, if I get there twice a week, I need to give myself the grace to know that is still taking care of myself. Because what I see on social media, and you may too, is there's a lot of self-judgment. And there's a lot of self-degradation. And I'm so bad. No, you're probably, if you're honest, either you're doing the best you can and give yourself some grace. Or I said it yesterday to a lady in my office who, this happens sometimes. They come in, we make a whole plan, they go away, they come back, they're still feeling lousy. I'm like, have you done everything you could? She's like, yes, I've done everything I could. But then I say, but you skipped 14 physical therapy visits. Are we, so we're either doing the best we can, let's give ourselves some grace, or we need to be honest with ourselves. Right. But either way, life happens.
Yeah. No, I love that you said that, because I do think that the standard that's being put out there for people on social media right now, it does one of two things. It can either inspire people to rise to heights they had never imagined, but it can also be soul crushing. And I do think that the message to people to be met where they are, to start where you're at. I mean, look, if you haven't seen the inside of a gym in 20 or 30 or maybe ever years, right? Yeah. I mean, getting out and walking is a great start, and not even with a weighted vest, because if you haven't done anything, that weighted vest is going to destroy your joints. I'm here to tell you. So like giving yourself grace is the most beautiful way to put it. But so let's get to the inspirational part of the conversation. Let's talk about, building muscle, like paying attention to muscle, feeding yourself in a way to build the muscle. So let's talk about, what does it take? Because Kiki Mouse didn't take steroids. She didn't pump testosterone. No. She wasn't even replacing her estrogen, for crying out loud. She's a woman and she's only little. Yeah. And she transformed herself in a year through grit and hard work. And let's be clear, she probably was sore a lot of the time. She was probably like dragging herself to the gym on days when she didn't want to go, like the whole 9 yards. In her case, she was able to do this. You may not be able to do that, but you can do so much. And as you said, like, if you can lift heavy twice a week, get yourself to that place, you're doing enough for now. You're doing enough. You're doing enough to maintain your muscle mass. You're bone density quality, right? Because there's no drug that's going to give you the quality of bone that you need. It may lay down a bunch of minerals and leave you with like brittle sticks for bones, which, by the way, is putting you no further ahead. So let's talk about how, like, what does the nutrition look like? Do people need to be consuming 200 grams of protein a day? Or like, what does it look like?
So number one, ladies and men, can you please stop starving yourself?
For the love of God.
For the love of God, there is no data, no science other than starvation literature that you are going to recompose your body without eating, because your body does not know what's going on. Now let's step back a minute. But because somebody's going to say, what about all that calorie restriction and longevity literature? But here's how I view this. Let's do another Venn diagram. You cannot be all things. You have to decide what your goal is, because what you have to do for longevity, like near starvation, calorie restriction, blah, 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 is very different from what you're going to do in high performance. My athletes do not starve themselves. They do all this exercise, but the rate and frequency and load they do is not good for longevity, right? Yeah. So longevity, performance, and total life wellness are actually sometimes three different goals. So you have to decide what you want. But if you want wellness and being able to do what you want to do when you want to do it, increased longevity because you're strong, because your bones don't break, right? We do dip into the longevity. We have to be structurally sound, and muscle is the way. So now, how do we do that? Well, from a food standpoint, you must feed your muscle. I am a big purporter. I advocate for people eating 1 gram of protein per ideal pound. Now, I have been criticized on the internet by researchers who's like, there is no data. Well, listen, there's data up to 0.73 to 0.86. I think those are the numbers. Grams.
Like, find me those qualifiers, please.
0.73 to 0.86 per pound. But here's the difference between somebody reading research and somebody taking care of people. And I've taken care of 100,000 people in my almost 30-year career. Nobody's going to do the math, people. Who's going to multiply by 0.73 unless you weigh 100 pounds? I'm just trying to get people to eat some frigging protein to feed their muscle. So I'm like, okay, I believe that 1 gram per ideal pound will feed you sufficiently with enough leucine, which is the most important branch chain amino acid for laying down muscle. I give you enough building blocks that you can support the lifting you're doing, right? Are you going to absorb all 1 gram per pound? No. Are you going to get it in every day? No. I take care of a lot of people. Remember, very few people do that. So 1 gram per ideal pound. And then the next objection I get, you may hear this too. Oh my God, I can't eat that much. It's so much food. The reality is, for instance, I aim for 130 grams of protein a day. It's not that much food. A cup of fat-free yogurt has almost 30 grams, 25 grams. If you're going to carry around your Stanley all day with 30 grams of protein and 10 grams of creatine, that's another 30 grams. A chicken breast, which is much more low calorie than chicken thighs, the size of my hand, is about 50 grams. So it adds up. I'm up to 110 and I just probably need a snack, right? Yeah. It's not that hard, people. And it doesn't mean that it has to be high calorie. But what it does take is a little effort, right? So that's the main thing. The other thing I want people to do is stop eating sugar, added sugar, white sugar, simple carbs. I'm not an anti-carb person. For performance, sometimes we need carbs, but I want you to take your carbs as fiber. Complex carbs, things your body has to work for, never juice. Do not mash up your fruit into smoothies. eat the fruit as dessert if you want it, right? So those are, I mean, I could go on and on, but people can only do two things at a time. So those are the nutrition things. But I loved your point earlier. I don't know if we recorded it, if it was you and I talking before. If your excuse is, if it's there, I have to eat it, don't buy it.
We were recording. Don't buy it. No, I find that, people who say I can't eat that much food usually are having the protein with a bowl of pasta, or, you know what I mean? Like if you ate them, and this has become this conversation has become very front and center, especially in the presence of GLP-1s, right? Where the GLP-1, if you don't exercise and you don't eat a protein forward diet and you're not meeting those goals, you absolutely will lose muscle, because I don't know if this is true. You can correct me, but my take on muscle is it's expensive territory for the body. And it's expensive to maintain. Mm-hmm. And the body, when it's thinking it's starving, is like, you know what? You're too high priced. We're going to get rid of some of you. It's not going to get rid of all of you, but it has to get nutrients from somewhere. That's
exactly right. Your body doesn't know what you look like in the mirror. All it knows
doesn't care, actually.
Your bones and your muscles are storehouses of nutrients for energy, right? So we can make ATP in our little mitochondria, our energy powerhouses, from fat, from protein, and from carbohydrates. Our body treats them all differently. But if we're scarce in one, it's going to take it from another, and it'll take it from your muscles. So it'll take it from your bone. 50% of bone is made out of protein.
Yeah. Okay. I have a question for you. What are your thoughts on supplements like essential amino acids? You mentioned protein powders a minute ago, which, can be a great stopgap. They're useful. They help people to meet their protein needs when they don't have time or whatever. What are your thoughts on the essential amino acids right now? Because there's a number of them out there. I have found at times people who don't have appetite, sometimes it can fill a gap, just providing some building blocks. What are your thoughts? And have you heard about dileucine?
Well, I don't prescribe dileucine, but
just the EAAs then.
Here are my thoughts. I would rather do as nature intended and get my protein from whole food. Mm-hmm. I realize that there are performance situations or life situations where we do need to fill the gap, where, and so can we skip and go directly to that because we don't want to eat whole foods? That is not the whole person way I treat people. In performance situations, we'll think about that, but not as a shortcut. We live in a min-max society, meaning I want to do the minimum thing to get the maximum benefit. And so I'd rather drink this thing than eat a chicken the size of my hand, right?
Yeah.
And so that's my basic philosophy. I'm not against it. I just think whole food first. And then if there's a performance gap, let's use that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to me, I see them as a top up more than anything.
Top and off. Mm-hmm.
Just a top up sometimes. But okay. So let's talk about anti-inflammatory foods and their role, because that's going to lead us to the conversation on inflammation, inflammaging, and it's how it gets in the way, right? So there's 20 anti-inflammatory recipes in your book.
In my book, yeah.
So let's talk about how food impacts the way we age, especially when it comes to joint pain and muscle.
People don't realize that the microenvironment that our tissues live in matters. Right. So if we take joints for an instant, one of the ways, if someone came in with arthritis in my clinic, which they do often, they think
I'm sure they do.
Yeah. They think all I'm going to do is talk about steroid injections, which I rarely give, by the way. So don't anybody listening, I rarely give those steroid injections or a variety of other medical things. But they are always surprised when I start out with nutrition, which means, and again, people can't do a lot of things. I'm going right back to the sugar. If you will stop poisoning your body with the sugar load, 16 pounds of sugar per month in added food. If you're not reading labels, 16 pounds. Even this little fat-free yogurt that I love. I was reading the label. It has 5 grams of added sugar. I'm like, I can't eat this. Because for me, that's about 1/10 of my total sugar intake the day. I don't want to spend it on a cup of yogurt. So,
but that's so interesting, right? If you give yourself it's budgeting.
Oh yeah.
It's finances.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, keep going.
Yeah. Is it worth the trade? Right? I'd rather have my dark chocolate than a cup of sugar added. Yeah. So anyway, when we decrease the sugar load in our body, my patients experience decreased joint pain in about 7 days.
Wow.
Because sugar is such an inflammatory, right, in our body. And it's not just in our stomachs, it's everywhere. And so that is one of the first things I tell people, as we spoke of before, but even as it applies to musculoskeletal health, like cartilage health. So anti-inflammatory nutrition also has to do with lots of green leafy vegetables, right? It has to, and people are like, well, but isn't dark meat, isn't beef and animal proteins inflammatory? Well, probably, yes. But again, it's about budgeting, right? I cannot eat enough legumes in a day and still stay within the carb ratio that I am comfortable with. I can eat 1 cup of beans a day, but I can't eat 130 grams. So for me, I have to, because people then ask, but what if I'm vegan? What if I only eat plants? Well, you can build muscle with that. Look at a cow. Yeah. A cow only eats muscle, only eats grass, but they eat grass all day. So if that's what you want to do, that's fine.
And they look like a cow, by the way. Well, I'm just putting it out there.
Yeah. Even a bull. Let's take a bull. The beef.
Let's take a bull.
Yeah. More muscular version of bovine. They eat grass all day. So if you want to eat all day, you will probably accumulate enough protein to do what we want without the potential inflammation of meat.
I also think that meat, where you source it, if you have the luxury of being able to source better quality meat, you're going to mitigate some of those issues. And again, not everybody has those options, but if you do, then exercising that option is a good idea. And wouldn't we say that those green leafy vegetables, the phytonutrients, and the other vegetables that you can eat also contain compounds that will balance things out and mitigate the inflammatory properties of the meat? What one dietary change should a woman adopt for a stronger, longer life? I think we've already just answered that. Meet your protein needs. Okay, so when it comes to musculoskeletal health, what are the early warning signs that women should be looking for? When do we know? When do they know, like, when things change? Because we get away with a lot when we're young.
We so do. We coast on our youth, which is so beautiful. I call this timeline I'm about to describe. It's truly a timeline. I call the decade between 35 and 45, and those are just it's not arbitrary, but it is, some people it's 30, some people 40. The critical decade to get your SHIT together, because we build maximum bone by about 30. You read some in some papers 25. You reach muscle. Now you can always build muscle, but by about 30. So if we have not laid down the habits, if we don't have the foundation of bone and muscle, and maybe we're skinny fat. I once went to New York Fashion Week and I saw the skinniest people I had ever seen, but I could not detect one bit of muscle underneath the skin. So it's possible to be skinny fat, meaning you have a lot of body fat and yet you're a size 2 or 1, right? So that is not a healthy state to be in. So the critical decade, 35 to 45, why is it also critical? Because for the most part, people have some estrogen. Estrogen is an anabolic steroid in your body. It is meaning it's a building hormone. It's not a sex hormone. It is a hormone. It works on every tissue in your body. And so you still have some. So 35 to 45, let's get it together. Because here's what happens, my friends. When we're in perimenopause, that time in our lives when we have so few eggs left, around 40, we have 1 to 3% of our total eggs left. And therefore, the egg shells, the follicles, are not pumping out the estrogen they once did. And our body goes into a crazy panic. It's like, where's my estrogen? So we pump out the FSH to ramp up our estrogen production, and we go up, down, up, down. And that's why perimenopause can feel so chaotic. And that's when most of the women I take care of start to feel the musculoskeletal syndromes of menopause. Total body pain, meaning you don't know why your body hurts. This happened to me. I'm an athlete. I could barely get out of bed. So women go traipsing off to the rheumatologists or to the internists, and they're labeled with, and these are real entities, but I think far too many women just get the diagnosis of seronegative rheumatoid arthritis and get put on big drugs, or fibromyalgia. Not every woman who has body pain has fibromyalgia, right? I think it's unrecognized perimenopause. Body pain called arthralgia. Number 2, very common due to the inflammation that we've been talking about and the inflammation of losing our estrogen. Estrogen is a huge anti-inflammatory. Women come in, I'm not laughing at you, I just chuckled, but if I see on a chart 46-year-old severe shoulder pain, I know before going in the room that I'm going to get in there and they're not going to be able to raise their arm, and they're certainly not being able to hook their bra because they have a frozen shoulder, because the high inflammation has caused so much capsular, what's the inside of the shoulder, inflammation, that they just can't move. Not to mention the loss of muscle we know happens across our lifespan. Not to mention the loss of bone, 20% in the 7 to 10 years around perimenopause. Many women don't build enough bone in their youth anyway, so it becomes a crisis, right? Cartilage matrix damage. Did you know that before age 50, men have more arthritis, usually traumatic, than women? But at about 50, many women have a dramatic increase in their arthritic pain, swelling, stiffness, grinding. They're like, I don't know what I did. Last year I was fine. This year you're telling me I've got near end stage arthritis. Because estrogen supports the cartilage matrix. It's like a sponge on the end of our bones. But not only those obvious things like fat is a musculoskeletal tissue. We move from peripheral fat to visceral fat, which is the kind that'll kill us, right? And that pesky 30 pounds that many of us gain, right? Then there's the things like tendon and ligament, which become less structurally whole. So plantar fasciitis, tennis elbow, patellar tendonitis. Things like low back pain increase because the discs, they look like donuts between our vertebrae, bony vertebrae, have a lot of collagen, are fed by estrogen. And finally, our muscle stem cells don't rejuvenate as well. So these are all musculoskeletal signs that many people are not aware of. Up to 80% of people will manifest one of these things. And when it comes to arthralgia, the total body pain, 25% of people are almost disabled by it.
So what do they do? Because now they ain't heading to the gym. No. If they have a frozen shoulder and full body pain and their knees are achy and the discs in their back are starting to get kind of squished, they're not heading to the gym yet. Although I think the gym would be a solution at some point. It is one
of the solutions, right? So again, when people come into me or when I talk about it, it's not one thing, it's a list. Number 1, you must become midlife literate. You cannot know how to take care of yourself unless you know perimenopause exists. You know, some of us in the world think that that's all anybody's talking about. But I have people every day come into my clinic who have never even heard of it. Yeah. Right? So we're not there yet, people. So we need to become literate. We need to understand what could be coming up the road. Very important, number 1. Number 2, I think every woman is a sentient being with agency. You get to choose whether you're going to optimize your hormones or not. Now, I can give you dozens of reasons why I think you should, but you get to choose. But you do not get to choose from fear based on no facts. You must choose based on the data, the facts, the new data, the current data, not old studies from 30 years ago. But you must make this choice. And the sad truth is that before the WHI was published, 2002, about 40% of all women were on hormone replacements, many of our mothers. And then once that came out, they were snatched from them. And now today, only 4% of all women are on any kinds of hormones, which, you know, if you want one reason, I'll give you two reasons out of the dozens of reasons to go on hormone optimization. It infers a 30 to 40% chance of decreased all-cause mortality. So if you want to live well longer, this is a consideration. Number two, from the bone doctor perspective, 1 in 2 women, either me or you, 1 in 2 women are going to have an osteoporotic fracture in their lifetime. And if it turns out to be your hip, there's a 30% chance that you will die in the first year or so. Yeah, I'm not playing, right? So those are two incredible reasons. And estrogen for the prevention of fracture of osteoporosis in postmenopausal women is FDA approved. There's no question.
Yet doctors are still writing prescriptions for I don't even know the names of the drugs anymore. I used to know them.
They are, because once we get so bad and someone is crumbling before your eyes, I would throw the book at him. I would do the estrogen assessment. Do the benefits outweigh the risks to put them on bioidentical hormones? Are we going to do a short course of medication because we can make short-term improvements? But to your point, when you feel a little better, Dr. Beck, I forget her first name, Dr. Beck has done a series of studies called the Lift More study that shows that even with women with absolute T-scores of osteoporosis can lift heavy as long as it's safe under supervision. So even women with bones that are just not healthy can lift heavy. But that goes to the difference between bone density and bone quality, right? And we don't have a great way of measuring quality. We have ultrasound through a machine called REMS, but it's not well known. It's not well accessed in this country, but it tells us quality, the bendability of our bones versus just the bone density. So right now we do bone densities, and it gives us an idea of where we stand.
I should introduce you to my friend Gary, because he's on a mission to make those REMS machines available in as many places as possible.
I know him.
Yeah.
Yes, I
he's
do.
one of the fastest talkers you'll ever meet. He's incredible.
I just think United States is a big country. It's very different from.
I know. It's going to take a while.
It'll take a minute. Yeah.
It's going to take a while. So in your journey, what's been the most difficult challenge you faced when it comes to health and aging, and how did you overcome it? I think you described it earlier maybe, but.
You know what? I don't think, this is so ironic. I am an aging researcher, musculoskeletal aging researcher, right? I've spent a large.
Oh, as in you study research. Okay. Aging.
I study research. I study aging as my research topic. I don't think I ever thought I was going to age. I mean, WTF? 40 was fine because I had a baby at 40. So I'm all like young mother, not young mother, geriatric mother mode, right? Yeah. But I hit 50 and then I hit menopause. Well, first perimenopause smacked me in the face because I was not yet educated. It's been so long ago that I am now an expert in it. At that time I wasn't, but I don't think I was ever going to age. So what hit me the hardest in perimenopause was being in so much pain that I couldn't get out of bed. It hit me hard that I had tremendous brain fog because, listeners, the brain is covered in estrogen receptors, the work of Lisa Mosconi. So, and she will be very careful to tell you that we are still doing the work, doing the work to see if estrogen can build better brain. But come on, people, if our brains are filled in estrogen receptors, the lack of that is going to do something. And in me, it meant that I could say things like in the OR, I need the thing that does this, but I couldn't tell my scrub tech I needed the Atson. Or I could say, give me something to write with, but I couldn't say I need the pen because I lost my nouns. And I didn't know that was brain fog. I thought it was early Alzheimer's because, one of my aunts had Alzheimer's and she was in terrible health. But I started scrambling to figure out if this was happening to me. I didn't know my heart palpitations at night were from lack of estrogen. And I have so much access to healthcare because of where I work. I called up my cardiologist. I'm like, Ricky, something's wrong. He put me on the stress test. My heart is perfect. I'm like, there is something wrong. So I think hitting me the hardest were those things that are profound, not to mention not sleeping, although I've mastered this now. That's another reason I talk about this all the time, because I was truly miserable. And now I've mastered this. I'm as strong as I've ever been. I do all kinds of crazy things, and I want everybody to be able to do what they want to do when they want to do it. And I don't think it takes, honestly, I am like you, I am deep in the biohack and longevity world, but I don't think it's necessarily a bunch of gadgets.
No. I mean, I think you have to be doing the foundation. Like the gadgets are great, but it's like the essential amino acids. Right. They're a top up. They're a good add-on. It's like even the concept that you can't optimize a body that's not in homeostasis. Like if you're way off kilter, you're not going to be able to optimize. So you need to hit that balance first. But that's so incredible to hear you say that. And I'm sure it's not uncommon that someone who's deep in a field like this, who knows all this stuff, who studies it, who lives it, who eats it, who breathes it, and all of a sudden gets hit with it.
Yeah.
Wait, what? No. You don't understand. I researched this. I got to buy.
Yeah, I was kind of disappointed, but you know what? Whatever. Pick yourself up, dust yourself off, get on some biochemical hormones. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. So did your doctor send you for BHRT, or did you call up a friend and say, I need help?
Yes. So now it would have been much easier. But like so many doctors, I wasn't trained in this. So I wandered around for quite a while. Then I read the book, Estrogen Matters by Avram Blooming and Carol Tavris, which is the book that saved my life. And I tell Avram and Carol that every time I see them, which is several times a year. I read it, I listened, and I'm like, oh my God, the data is so clear. What am I doing? But I couldn't find someone trained to do it. So you know what women do. Sometimes we're sitting around talking to each other in a circle, and I'm talking about this, and my nurse, Kathy, my friend Kathy, who's a nurse, is like, we have a guy in Chicago.
I got a guy for that.
For that. And so I call this strange man. He wasn't strange. He was helpful, that I don't know, in another city, because I was in Atlanta at the time. And he's like, oh yeah, this is what we're going to do. So I went on estradiol. Bioidentical just means it's the same molecule. It's not synthetic, right? So for your listeners. But so I use estradiol patches, and I'm going to die with it on my belly. I have a uterus, so I need micronized progesterone to protect my uterine lining. And I went along with that for a while. And then I started really lifting heavy. I took lessons. Not everybody knows how to lift heavy. The last time I had lifted heavy, I was in high school, lifting with the football team. I'm like, that's a long time ago. I better take some lessons. So I took some power lifting lessons and trained, and now I do it all myself. And I've written the heavy workout in Unbreakable, the book, is my last workout series before the book was published. So this is legitimately something I have tried, but it's based on powerlifting. It's lifting to failure. We can go into that, but I started doing that, and I started cardio on two ends of the spectrum, zone 2 base training and sprinting for my cardiovascular health. And it is the sprinting and the heavy lifting that recompose my body, because I went at 40 from a body, I'm an athlete. I went from a body composition that had 19% body fat. And even after I had my baby, I was still about 24. 1 year in menopause, I went up to 32. I think 34% was my highest. I'm like, this is not how I live.
This is not going to work.
This is not going to work for me. And so, because I was at that point, whether am I going to buy a whole new wardrobe or am I going to fit into the clothes I've had, the pieces that I've had? So it was all the nutrition things you and I have talked about. It was the heavy lifting. It was the sprinting that recomposed my body back. And in about 18 months, I went back down to 22% body fat. I gained 8 pounds of muscle, and it's not sitting on my butt wishing for something to happen. Right? So I think we just need to decide who and what we want to be, because midlife doesn't have to be miserable. I made the hormone decision. I became literate. I put in the work at the gym. And here's the deal. It is a lifestyle. It's not a 6-week diet. It's not something you ever put down. It's just the way you live, right?
100%. It's a decision.
Yeah.
It's a decision and a choice. I love that. So tell me about this, your fitness regime for women. Is it different did you write it differently than you would have written it for men?
Yes. Yes, I did, because men need to lift heavier in midlife. They probably don't need to lift as heavy, meaning 3 to 6 reps to failure. Men can lift 8 to 10. They still have to lift heavier in midlife. Number one. Number two, when I have a man, although I guess this is the same, when I have a man come into my clinic and he's tired and all his joints are hurting and his tendons are popping, I'm an orthopod who tests their testosterone, right? So in women, I forgot to add that. I started out on estradiol and progesterone, and I added in testosterone, and it's given me the spark of life. I'm not really kidding, in all areas. But for men, so for women, that's the direction I try to counsel them in, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
For men, I will test testosterone, and I feel like all young men should have a baseline testosterone done when they're 30 or so, right? Because let's say, I find a lot of men in their 50s and 60s, their testosterone may fall within the 250 to over 1,000 that's considered normal. But what if when they were 20, their testosterone was 800? And now that they're 45 or 50, their testosterone is 350, which is still normal. But so for the low, no wonder they're low energy. And so that's a conversation I have. And now as an orthopod, if they're still in their reproductive years, I don't want to have the conversation about their sperm count. So I send them to a longevity urologist. But it's a conversation I have. So that's one way it's different. I guess it's the same. I bring up hormones to men and women. The lifting is a little bit different. The cardio, I suggest the same thing, the two ends of the spectrum. The thing that I want all of people to add is, once they have a steady state of base training plus sprinting, once a week I would add in VO2 max training, which is a little different than sprinting. Sprinting is guts to the wall for 30 seconds. VO2 max is as fast as you can go for 4 minutes with only 4 minutes of recovery. But it's important to me that people are mindful of their VO2 max, because VO2 max is the ultimate measure of fitness and therefore longevity. And here's why. There is a line in the sand called the fragility line. It is that VO2 max when you do not have the fitness, the cardiovascular fitness, and often the muscular fitness to get up from a chair by yourself. You know, you've seen people rocking back and forth to get up. They just can't rise with their muscles, right? Using their arms. The VO2 max that happens in men is about 17 and women about 15. But if you can't get up from a chair or the toilet, you cannot take care of yourself. And that's when you start living in assisted living or with your children. So we know that VO2 max untrained in the way that I described will decline about 10% per decade. Yes. So I don't think VO2 max, in as painful as it is to do, is a bad thing to do with your 40-year-old physical or your 30. That's why I think 35 to 45 is the time to get your shit together, because build some
make it a habit.
real endurance, right? Because here's what happens. If at 40, your VO2 max is, this is my number, it was around 50. And then at 50, it's, if we take round numbers, 45. And at 60, it's 40. And we're never reaching the frailty line. But if we are so unconditioned in our youth that we start out at 30 or 28, we're reaching the fragility line very early. And people think that longevity equals health. And you and I both know that's not true, right? We know that our health span in this country is about 63.
Yeah.
Right? Our life expectancy for women is about 81. If we live in Australia, I went on a speaking tour in Australia, those ladies are living to 85 because they're all outside exercising. But 81, but that does not mean that we are happy, joyful, vital until that time.
Yeah. And that's the goal.
Of course.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we have to respect people's intelligence. And we now know, I just had this conversation with someone on a podcast. She said, oh, well, longevity doesn't mean health span. And I said, I think at this point it's implied. I don't think anybody's aiming to live to 98
in poor health,
like a noodle in a wheelchair, not knowing their own name, gnashing their gums and not being able to wipe their own butt. Nobody's gaming for that. Right. I think we already have that nailed. Yeah. We're looking for something different now. Right. Okay. So to finish off, if you don't mind, I have a couple of rapid fire questions for you. And then we're going to play a game, rapid fire questions. What's your go-to exercise for boosting energy?
I am most energetic, exhausted, but most energetic after I lift.
Okay. Lift something. So go find something heavy and lift it. All right. What's the biggest myth about aging that drives you crazy?
That aging is an inevitable decline from the vitality of youth down a slippery slope to frailty. It does not have to be, but it will be if we do not be intentional and purposeful in our aging process.
Perfect. Best advice for overcoming joint pain naturally?
Naturally meaning no injections, right? No medical injections. Yeah. So number one, cut out all sugar for 7 days and you're going to see a big decrease in your pain and you're never going to want to go back. Number two, you are going to build muscle around your joints so that your joints don't slam together at 9 times body weight, but they are compressed like shock absorbers. Those are the two.
Beautiful. How do you stay motivated to keep moving on tough days?
Yeah. There are tough days. Mobility is just my lifestyle, right? So whether it is walking up and down the hallway in my clinic for 7 hours straight, that counts, right? That is still mobility. I'm going to be honest with you and your crowd. I'm not the kind of person that wants to go to the gym every day until I am walking out of the gym and I'm like, I am a badass.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. It's the feeling of after the workout that gets me to the gym.
That's right. I want to feel like that every day. It's not for my 20-year self. It's for, holy cow, I am this age and I just lifted really heavy, whatever. So, maybe it's my ego.
I love it. Whatever. The one food you swear by for maintaining bone health.
You know what? High protein. And if you have one food, non-fat Greek yogurt, it is high in calcium. It is high in protein. It's tolerable. It's tolerable. If you want to know the truth.
I love it. Well, it could be a food group.
Yeah.
All right. Last one. If you could invent one new supplement for women's health, what would it be?
I would invent something that did everything estrogen does and not call it estrogen so that women aren't freaked out by it.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. That's amazing. This has been a fascinating conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time and for taking this on.
Oh, my pleasure. We have a lot of good work to do. Yeah.
Yeah. But you're really making waves. So thank you on behalf of all the women who need to hear what you're talking about. Thank you for taking time out of the surgical theater to educate, because it's a big deal. So thank you for doing this. Where can people find, you have a book?
I do. Can I show you? Look.
Yes, show us.
These are the galleys, but it's, Unbreakable.
It's not out yet?
It will be out August 26th.
Oh, I can't wait to get a copy. I love it. It's beautiful.
It's beautiful. And you can pre-order it now. But the approach I took here is everything that you and I talked about, but it takes us, we're going through menopause. Now what do we do for the rest of our life? This is a book that I designed to help you live longer, better, unbreakably. So I hope everybody enjoys it. And they can find it on my website, Dr. Vonda Wright, Dr. Vonda Wright. It has its own website, The Unbreakable Book. And I just hope it propels a generation of women forward to be strong, to live longer, and to age with power.
Yeah. And I think that one of the big takeaway messages here I'm hoping people got is it doesn't matter how old you are right now. It doesn't matter how little you've done until now. Yes, it's ideal if you started earlier, but it's never too late to start.
That's right. Absolutely.
Let today be day one. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Such a pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.